It's Mitch from RespectMyRegion.com, back with another episode of the North American Weed Tour podcast. Episode 50 today. We hit the 50 spot. Today, I have special guest Monica Garcia joining us from Sanoma County. How are you doing today?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you.
Awesome. I didn't even give you your title. Monica is the co-founder of Cloud 11, business we'll get into in a minute, but third generation cannabis industry hustler. She has done a lot. If you read in the description, you can see she's worked from the legacy market to corporate cannabis to micro businesses. So this will be a good conversation spanning a lot of cannabis. I had to hype you up. I'm not going to make you hype yourself up. So how are we doing today? And could you fill me in? I know you're at the new office. Give me kind of the rundown of Cloud 11 and where you guys are at currently at this moment.
Yeah, this is actually a really special day. Thank you so much for having me be on Respect My Region. I am super excited about today because it is 11/11. And that is definitely my favorite number is 11. And Cloud 11 kind of stems from that as well. So 11/11 is special. Today will be our anniversary and moving forward. So super excited. We are in our office today in Sonoma County and just opened. And we're a consulting and management company. And we're just excited to team up with a really great group of people. So.
I didn't even think of that it is 11/11 and it's Cloud 11. I don't know how I didn't see that, but that is pretty serendipitous.
Right?
Is that the
That's
right word?
Special.
Yeah, that is awesome. So consulting, you've been in this space quite a while. As I said in your introduction, you've worked on various sides and sizes of scale in this space. Give me a little bit of your personal journey in cannabis, kind of what's brought you to this point.
Yeah, definitely. Third generation. So my dad actually got us involved back in the day. And my family has always been in the hustle, meaning my sister, my brother, my nephews, just a lot of my cousins. I have a huge family. So, really just started distributing eighths in high school because I was able to get it from cousin Rudy. And that's kind of just how I started. And then fast forward after having 3 kids and a daycare, I decided to turn my garage into a cultivation. So that was about 5 years, and I was pretty much producing OGs at that time, and my pounds were going for about 3,500 to 4,000 a pound. That was back in the day. Good numbers back then. And then fast forward to that, I've always wanted to be part of the cannabis industry. I just knew that it was someday going to be legal. So I started to work for various companies, all startups, of course. They've fallen, come and gone. But my real corporate job was working with CannaCraft. And, they gave me a great opportunity to really understand manufacturing and distribution. And then from there, working at Nootropic. So I was able to actually grow a company to close to over 200 employees. And that was really awesome. So, these corporates, they did give me a lot of opportunity to learn. But what I've found out is I just want to be my own entrepreneur and, really create a team of people that I want to work with.
That's awesome. And you have such a unique perspective to have had that corporate experience, that side of it that gets a bad side from the legacy market traditionally, but then you also come from the legacy market. So you kind of have seen all sides of the industry.
Yes, I have. I feel like I could bridge that gap a little bit.
Yeah. And, with California, it's no surprise, like coming from the legacy market, obviously the accessibility of cannabis and the stigma is a little bit lower on cannabis in California than the rest of the world. I know we still have a ways to go. And obviously with legalization, it's broken down a lot of walls, but California's been very blessed with a higher tolerance for cannabis culture, What was it
Definitely.
like growing up and kind of cutting your teeth in that market pre-legalization, like the stigma around cannabis? Like how did you feel? I mean, clearly your family didn't abide by the propaganda stigma that was pushed onto most people, but how did you kind of feel fitting in the culture out there and kind of the stigma growing up in that?
Well, a lot of it was secret. right? Because like I said, I had 3 kids and I was a coach and I, coached them in many sports. So a lot of it was just hidden and it was a secret for a really long time. Of course, my family knew about it, but I always worked for large corporations. So I always had to hide that.
Mm.
And I'm a daily stoner. I can I will admit, I've pretty much been smoking about 20 years every day. So, it was definitely something I had to hide. And yeah, a lot of people really didn't believe that this is something I really wanted to do. And now they believe it. So it's crazy. It's something that I had to have hidden for a while. And now I can be entirely open about it. And I'm very passionate.
Yeah, and that's, even for myself personally, the biggest blessing in legalization has been that stigma where even myself who doesn't abide by that stigma but feels more comfortable not only talking about it openly but also talking about my past. And it's always a trip to think about exactly how secretive and how selective the people you even told you were a user, let alone deeper ties to the industry,
Exactly.
to now where it's like, oh, I can openly talk about that. It's like it's a resume experience. It's kind of a
Right.
weird phenomenon.
And speaking of resumes, I was in HR and a recruiter for 15 years. And so I thought it was really cool when I started to build my resume that I can actually put all of my cannabis experience on it.
Mm,
So even the traditional side, right?
yeah,
So,
that's got to be a trip, man. That's got to be a trip. And so we've gone through the legacy, we've gone through startups and corporate. You've been doing consulting for quite a while and hustling on your own right. Give me, I know we've spoke a little bit off camera, but what are some of the moves that Cloud 11's working on right now that you can let that are you could share publicly? What are some of the things you guys are up to?
yes. So I'm super excited. My other co-founder, her name is Luna Moon. We've been really hustling together, trying to get Cloud 11 up and running. And then we just actually, this is big news. So Amber Wilson is coming on board as a partner as well with Cloud 11, and she's going to be spearheading our sales department. So she's president of sales, and we just got some really big accounts. One of them is with Carlos Dew and Superbad. So we'll be taking over all of the sales portion for him. And Cloud 11 actually is getting an investor, which we're really excited about. So we're going to be really growing our team and hiring. So
Mm,
some of the things that we do is we also still broker. Um, we broker license to license. So we definitely help a lot of legacy farms help move their product because that's definitely something that they're struggling with right now. So with a lot of our connections that we have all from Humboldt all the way to San Diego, we're able to help a lot of these legacy farmers because some of the things that they don't do is sell, right? They're
mhm.
really great at cultivating. So we're really unfortunate to help them out. So brokering is still something we do. And then we're also bringing on brands. So we have Superbad being one of them, and we have some more up and coming. And those are brands that we're going to sell into dispensaries and delivery. And that's kind of what we're working on now. And then we're getting ready for Hall of Flowers and Emerald Cup.
Awesome. And Emerald Cup will be up in your neck of the woods.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
um, that's a benefit. I want to get into that in a little minute. But for the brokering, I think what's so important and what stands out is, like you said, working with legacy farmers, the people that have been cultivating for a long time that really know cultivating, and they even if they know how to sell cannabis, this market selling it as a consumer packaged good and marketing, it kind of goes against everything that you used to do in the market, it being secretive and not telling anyone. You trained yourself to how can I let the least amount of people know I do this, to now
Right.
how do I let the world know that I do this. um, and that puts you in a unique perspective to be able to help those people and that you've seen both sides. How has that been, working with these people, and what's kind of the internal satisfaction that you get from helping some of these people that have been around the block for a while but acclimate to this new world that we're in?
Well, like I said before, I like to say that we bridge the gap, right? So, a lot of these legacy farmers, they just want to cultivate. That's all they want to do. And, they're not doing the hustle and bustle and going out there and, the networking and meeting everybody. And so it's really nice to be able to, work with these farmers who have trust in us, because we definitely know the product really well. We've been doing it for a long time, brokering on the traditional side, right? So we definitely understand the material. And besides that, it's like, how can we help them with their seeds or their clones or their genetics or anything else that we could possibly do to help their farm? And that's something that we were really passionate about, and going out there and helping these farmers just succeed. So yeah, it's something that we're going to continue to do. And an emerald triangle is a different place, right? It's very unique, and we're really fortunate to have the relationships that we do.
Man, that is awesome. And so when it goes to just looking at the market, whether you're going from, helping with the wholesale transaction from, farmer to store, or ultimately thinking to the end consumer, what are some of the things that you take into consideration when looking at product and understanding how it's going to be priced and how to move it? What are some of the components of, raw flower that you look at as really important keys?
Yeah, there's actually, we're kind of going through that right now. Some of our cultivators, they're just so different. And we have the farms that are, the depth game is really big right now. And so a lot of the pricing for indoor cultivation has gone down. So, we really have to understand the market on the traditional level, because it does make sense on the legal side as well. So, looking at their material, we have to just make sure, is it priced right? Is it going to be able to move from the shelves? How is it cured? Those are the things that we do help with. But the indoor game for genetics is really strong. So
Hmm.
I'm really fortunate to work with some of the best people there in the game. And one of our guys, his name is Jay, in Richmond, Oakland, and proud to say that he's going to be our cultivator for my brand Iconic that's coming out. His problem is he just doesn't have enough space to grow enough of his product. It's literally, as soon as it's cut, it's sold. So that's a good problem to have.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, so there's a lot of farms, that don't have that craft farming. So we definitely have to get very creative, when it comes to moving their type of product.
Absolutely, and I'll vouch for, the one time you pulled up on me with some weed in Vegas, it was some kill, man. I think you had some runts. I can't remember where it was from, but you had some runts, and it was some
Yes.
kill, man. So I have to
Yes.
pay homage. You know what you're doing. So
Thank you. Thank you. I was super excited to have these, chillums and be able to pass them out with the best, product inside. So we definitely got some great reviews. And I think Nelly actually smoked it in Vegas right before his concert. So that was cool.
oh wow, yeah. When you get a freebie like that, right? You expect the quality to be low, and I was like, I don't even know. I was like, let me just try this out, and I was like, I mean, I already saw the flower before. Actually, that's what made me try. You showed me the flower, and you're like, "This is what's in that," and I was like, "All right, yeah, I gotta try that."
Right. I love that. That is so awesome.
So it
Yeah.
was it was definitely good. But so taking it back up to, you guys are located in Sonoma County, which is has a lot of heritage in agriculture. When we look at wine, clearly it's like the wine capital of the world. Well, I don't know about the world, but the U.S. Um,
Yes.
and also, it is the epicenter for cannabis industry events. When you look at, traditionally, like, I believe Secret Sesh was held up towards that area. Um,
Mhm.
you got Hall of Flowers up there, the Sonoma County Fairgrounds. I mean, Emerald Cup, I believe, and the Emerald Ball is happening there, and
Correct.
just so many different events have happened up there. What is it like, kind of living up there when you're off the map? You're more of a tourist destination, if you will, but when the cannabis industry converges, they seem to converge there.
Yes, Santa Rosa definitely is a special place. I was born and raised in Healdsburg, which is wine country, so wine and weed pretty much my whole life. I truly believe that when people come all over the world, to this region, they want to experience the best wine, and I think that's definitely going to be the same thing when it comes to cannabis as well. And people want that experience, and they want an education and so one of the great things, my sister and I are actually licensed in Santa Rosa for our distribution and manufacturing. And one of the things that I feel is needed is to have more of a showroom and education when it comes to cannabis. And I want people to be able to come to Santa Rosa and have that same type of experience that you could with wine. So that's something that is in the works currently, but really happy. My sister is CEO, and I think there's probably less than 10% of women who actually are licensed here in California.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, it is. You know, I've interviewed a couple of women as of the last few weeks to talk about, talk about that. I'm not sure of the statistic. I should have looked at it beforehand, but female ownership in this industry as a whole is very, very low. What has been your perspective? Because I mean, obviously you're not new to cannabis. You've been around here for a long time. What is your perspective as a woman in this industry, and not just a woman, but also a woman that's sat at high level seats and also been a owner of a company?
Yeah, it's so interesting. I was born just really always being that hustler all the time. And just a little tidbit, I was a martial artist for a really long time, over 20 years ago, became a world champion, and it was a man's world, right? So I'm really used to being in the game with a lot of men. For me, I don't feel it's necessarily a challenge. I think I just love it so much, and there's just so much for me to learn from everybody. But I do know that for a lot of women, it's a struggle. And I want to make sure that I can be that. I don't know, I'm really nervous right now because I
No,
think I'm
no
just
worries.
super passionate about all of this. And, I want to be a leader. And for a lot of women who are coming into the space, I do get a lot of phone calls from a lot of women who just want to work in the cannabis industry. And they say, Monica, how do I get involved? How do I get my foot in the door? Can I learn from you? I'm building this amazing team so that I can actually hire more people
Mm.
and more boots on the ground, and for us to continue to educate each other and learn and be a bigger team. But it's a struggle right now for a lot of women. It's a hard industry to be in, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, it's male dominated. There's one point in Vegas, I can't remember where I was at. I don't think you were there. I was talking to somebody. I was like, they're playing a 50 Cent song and they're playing like one of his pop songs. And I was like, man, I wish they were playing this. And they're like, man, none of the girls would like that song. And I was like, look around this room, man. There's no girls in this room.
Right?
Why are we catering to the women with the music playing? There's no women here, man. So,
That's so
but it was just in
true.
that moment, obviously as a male, and especially a white male, I hold a lot of privilege, right? And like I understand that it's male dominated, and he's goofy and as jokey as that is, but in that moment, looking around this whole party and being like, I think I can count on like two hands out of how many hundred people here are women, and
Yes.
um, you know, I hear so many stories from women that have to deal with just crazy things that you have to be put into, and situations, and just the way relationships tend to unfold in a male dominated industry. There was an article that came out on Beard Bros after MJ BizCon, kind of is a frat culture boys club. And again, I have the privilege where I don't really know, I
Yes.
don't operate or think or I'd like to say I don't treat people like that. So I'm kind of naive to
You
it, but
don't. You don't.
but I get it, and so it's definitely it's uninspiring when you hear that perspective from other people, because cannabis is a community driven thing, right? It took the community. It was something we shared as a community in the legacy market as a secret. It's something the community took to push to legalization. And I think that community aspect is so important to continue to hold each other accountable and make sure that we're pushing forward with like positivity, right? Like we're trying to change the world.
We are. Exactly. Yeah, it's been the best industry. I've met the best people. I have new friends, new family, just from working in this industry.
Absolutely. And and on the topic of Vegas, I wanted to pick your brain a little bit about networking, because I know we connected on LinkedIn before we met in person.
Yes.
And then obviously we met in person at Hall of Flowers, and you were a broken foot out there on a hobbling around on one leg, and it's not an event that's friendly to, just
No.
move around. There's a lot of ground to cover, and you're on your feet. So how important is it to get out there and network with the people?
Super important. You brought up LinkedIn. LinkedIn has been amazing to me. I have pretty much have found a lot of my partners from LinkedIn,
Mm.
to be honest. I use it every day. I have amazing followers. I engage, and I'm just constantly, reaching out and trying to meet as many people as possible. The coolest thing is I did that a lot during the pandemic. And then when Hall of Flowers came, I was actually able to see a lot of people
Right.
face to face. So that was really cool. And especially in Vegas as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's super important to get out there and network. It's so important. That's like the biggest tool that I have is networking.
And what do you think, we'll start with LinkedIn and I'll move to like physical events in a second, but what are some of the tips, and you don't have to think of it as like my top 3 tips or anything like that, but what are some of the pointers that you would give someone of like, hey, I'm on LinkedIn and I kind of dilly dally a little bit here and there, but like, I don't, what would you tell someone? Like, what are some of the pieces you're like, this is how you really leverage this platform?
Yeah, definitely. And the first thing is, making sure you have a pretty good bio about yourself and making yourself stand out and being unique. Second is, really engaging. So making sure that, you're following the right hashtags that you want. Cannabis is awesome on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
I've gotten deleted on Instagram, so that sucks. But LinkedIn is pretty professional. Just continue to make it professional and business oriented, but definitely continue to engage and try to connect with as many people as possible. That's kind of, yeah, just got to keep doing it every day.
Absolutely. Everybody always looks for like the cheat code when it comes to the internet, right? Like, how do I put the least in and get the most out? And like, ultimately, you get in what you put out, right? And that engagement and just, meeting people digitally, networking, messaging, and not even just shooting messages, but just like you said, scroll your timeline, like things, put your thoughts and opinions on it. Like, it's crazy, but you can build relationships that started from comments. It's truly crazy.
I
And the
do have a funny story.
spill it, man. Let me hear it.
So on LinkedIn, Carlos do actually, about March, he actually reached out to me first. And I thought he was a startup company. I laugh at him now, he knows this. And I turned him down. He actually wanted me to work with him, and I turned him down. So when I saw him in Vegas and I saw his company there, I reached out to him because I remember messages on my LinkedIn. And then the next day we met. And that's how the business started. So I also I also put him in my car from LA and drove all the way to Oakland so he could meet my cultivator. So I actually had him in my car for about a good 7 hours to pick his brain.
Yeah. He's trapped at that point, man.
He was so trapped.
That's a mob, but that's funny, and that's the funny thing about, you know, what the power of LinkedIn, right? Of taking it, and like you mentioned it earlier, of the pandemic, of like taking these relationships that don't just the community, the community of cannabis, or the cannabis community on LinkedIn, especially the business community, is not that big, right? And so when you get pretty heavy in that engagement and community building on the internet, and you go to a Hall of Flowers or you go to a Vegas, then it's like I'm not seeing people I don't know. I'm seeing all these faces I've seen in little thumbnail
Yes.
photos, right? And you can just, the icebreakers are super easy. So what are some of the tips and thoughts that you have in terms of someone making sure they go to a Vegas or a Hall of Flowers? Like, how do they best leverage that for networking?
Definitely. I always say, make your appointments, and it's super, super important to make sure that you're, setting appointments and reaching out to your people on LinkedIn and following up. I actually met Joey on LinkedIn. I don't know if you know that,
Mm.
and I got you guys some business
Yeah,
a few
no,
years ago from that.
yeah.
So, yeah, it's just that's what I would say. Just make sure that you're there at a certain spot, making appointments. People are coming to you. You're leveraging all of your networking skills, business cards, social media, and just continuing to do that every day. Right now with cannabis, it's just really about putting your face out there as much as possible.
Yeah, absolutely. The opportunities in this space are quite literally limitless at this current place that we're at, right? Like, where you start today, your trajectory can be so high tomorrow, as opposed to tech or maybe some of the other corporate
Right.
worlds you come in, where the ladder is defined, and the way you climb those steps, maybe you skip up a step or two, but it's like you have a 5-year plan that's pretty standard, right? Where in this industry, like, fuck, your 2 years could be, it can
Exactly.
completely change.
Right. So I mean, people in this industry are so amazing, and you just got to continue to engage. I also really love different platforms. WEIC with Kyra Reed, Lady Jane Society. She's really amazing when it comes to bringing a lot of women together. And constantly just watching podcasts
Hmm.
and just learning all the time. And that's what I do every day. I'm on LinkedIn as soon as I wake up in the morning.
Every day. Yeah, I don't know about it in the start of the morning, but I'm on LinkedIn every day for sure. And I'll echo that. Like anybody out here that wants to make moves in the cannabis industry, you got to be on LinkedIn, and you got to spend 5 to 10 minutes a day. Will be one of the most meaningful investments you'll ever put into this space.
I agree. I agree.
It
Meet
is.
cool people.
And so I've got a question for you, and I put you in the hot seat a little bit. So being in California, seeing cannabis so much as a broker, where is the best weed in California grown?
Well, I mean, I'm gonna have to say here in Sonoma County. I mean, I love Sonoma County, but no, there's a lot of great places. It really just depends on what you're looking for, right? Because I really truly love light assist. I
Mhm.
really like a lot of the sun and that you can't get from indoor cultivation, right? But yeah, I mean, I would say Sonoma County.
Okay, I'm not mad. That's right in the somewhere in the middle of the Bay and Humboldt, which sometimes there's the fight where the Bay obviously is indoor grown, and Humboldt and Mendo, the Triangle, that's outdoor, and then in between, whether it's Santa Barbara, Santa Rosa, or Sonoma County area, that's the light depths are you guys are going crazy on the greenhouses right
Yes.
now. And so that's another thing, back to, this, your prediction, which I also like coincide with the belief that, California and specific areas of California are going to really be known as like the Appalachian areas for the cannabis plant in the future. Um, Explain a little bit more, just your thoughts of like the parallels of where you see cannabis kind of mimicking wine in wine country.
When you think of your wine experience, when you go to a lot of the wineries and you're doing wine tasting, you get to actually taste a lot of different types of wines. I'm hoping that that's going to be the same case for cannabis when we can have smoking lounges,
Right.
and I'm hoping the laws would change soon enough for that, because then you're able to actually taste before you buy, right? So but there's an education piece to that too. People love to see why am I smoking this? What is the terpenes? What are the cannabinoids? Like, how was this grown? What was your style? Everyone has a different style, right? And I think people really want to learn those things. It's still a question for a lot of people. People really don't understand all of it. So I think there's an excitement to that when people want to come to this region and want to learn, and that's going to be from all over the world.
Mhm.
So
Absolutely, and and that's I think about. I'm not the biggest wine drinker. My wife is, but when you go to a winery, right? I mean, when you go to the store, you buy one bottle, and you're committed to
right.
that bottle, right? When you go wine tasting, you get an array of glasses. They're usually varying in the types of wine, and you
Correct.
usually get with that some sort of education of why is this wine white and this one's red and then this one's pink, right? And you in that
Yes.
experience, you discover, oh, I actually like rosé. I never knew that before,
I didn't know I liked it.
and
Yeah.
rosé is made this way. That makes sense why I like it, or what. And so I very much agree with you in cannabis that there's the education component is so huge, and without that, right, you can't understand
Right.
why you like something as opposed to something else, or I like this, so maybe I'll try, I like this genetic, and this genetic is a parent of this genetic. So let me find, kind of go down these lineages to find what I
Right.
like.
Yeah. And right now it's all about THC content, when a lot
Hmm.
of, buyers are going into dispensaries and okay, what's the most THC, right? So it's just in time, it's not going to be that. I feel that it's going to be about terps, and people will start to get educated on that.
Yeah. And so for you, for the people out there, most of the people out there that watch this are from the industry, so they get it. But the people that don't, do you need to buy cannabis off THC percentage? What's your thoughts?
No, not necessarily. I mean, believe me, I love great weed that has that big THC, but on a daily, that's not what I'm smoking every day. I definitely love my sativas in the morning, and I love that sun grown, like I told you.
Mhm.
So different flavors for sure, but that THC, that's probably when I wanted to go to sleep at night.
Absolutely. And so another thing that I wanted to ask you about when in pertaining to the California market, like one of the challenges that's very unique to California is distribution,
Correct.
simply because of the sheer geographic size of the state, but also the geography in general. The Emerald Triangle we speak about. You're getting hours of dirt roads through no service to get there, and LA is a long. You can drive through
Yes.
Washington and Oregon, and you get the same. It's the same time to get from Seattle to Northern Cali than it is to get from like Mendo to LA, right? And so, what are some of the challenges that you've seen through distribution in California?
Wow, there's a lot of challenges right now. Where do I even start? um, wow. Okay. Right now, I mean, I guess the challenge is just not having enough retail space, right? Just, I think hopefully there'll be more by next year, but just not having a lot of shelf space is one of the challenges. People are definitely getting really creative when it comes to direct to consumer and delivery right now. So the game is changing just a little bit in regards to distribution with direct to consumer. Yeah, it is really hard, especially when you're in beverage. I was actually working at Kind House, and beverage is really, really hard to distribute. It's very different. It's on different pallets. It's heavier product. So that's one of the challenges right now is beverages and not having like the really big trucks.
Hmm.
Um, but really, I think distribution is definitely making changes right now in regards to how they're doing things. Back in the day, a lot of distribution companies would pick up all the brands and do all of the sales and would just want exclusivity. So that's changed in regards to distribution. Now they're like opening it up a little bit more. Um, I'm totally tongue tied right now
Oh,
because
no
my
worries.
brain's just thinking of all these things, and I'm still super nervous talking to you. But definitely distribution is going to be a challenge for a little bit longer, I think. But I'm actually starting a distribution company, so I'll be going through those challenges myself.
Yeah, and the one that you hit on is beverages, which it honestly doesn't get talked about very much. Most of the delivery trucks in this space do not have coolers in them, right? It's not like the
Yeah.
beer industry where you're only delivering beer, so you keep everything in a certain temperature environment, right? And I've heard a lot, like up here in Washington, the rosin market being like, dude, you guys transport our rosin and then
Yeah.
store it in a store, and it just gets ruined because you're not handling it right, right? And so with beverages, you're absolutely right. Is like, how do you, for consumers, keep the cost super low, which really helps drive purchases in this market, but then also distribute something that's incredibly heavy and takes up a ton of space and added cost of cooling. Um,
Correct. And
yeah,
then,
it's
the problem is still cash, right?
mhm.
A lot of cash handling, which is really scary still. So hopefully, there'll be some banks opening up soon for cannabis.
Yeah, that's an issue. I mean, you follow the blacklist or just regular news, there's quite a bit of I don't mean to
Yeah.
laugh. There's quite a bit of negative sides of carrying, large quantities of cash with drivers stopping to get gas, and there's quite a bit of horror stories. And
Yeah, it's still a little scary out there.
yeah,
They're
it's
looking out for those white vans.
yeah, I mean that's the thing. So I'm driving with my wife, I always see one, and I'm like, I wonder if they have a bunch of weed in that car. She's like, what do you mean? I was like, that's the van that they use for weed. I don't even know what else somebody would buy
That's
that
all I
van for
think
at
of
this point.
now. Exactly.
And that becomes a hard issue, right, for the distribution companies. Like, do you brand your truck or do you not, right? Because you essentially putting a target on it by putting it,
Exactly. So they choose not to brand their trucks
yeah,
at all. Yeah.
yeah. It is quite wild. And so, another thing I want to, talk about is, you know, in a lot of these emerging states, the price for the end consumer is quite high. When you go to cannabis, I think there's a couple contributing factors to just the supply chain of having to have that distribution license, the cost of electricity, water, real estate, the cost of distributing across a big state. What are some of your thoughts on just pricing out there, and then how honestly how the pricing, we'll say not the pricing, the tax structure is keeping the black market pretty healthy out there.
Yeah, that's the saddest part, right? Because of those high taxes for, all the way from the manufacturing to distribution to retail. So, and then to the consumer, it gets really pricey. And right now the market, it's flooded, right? So, the cultivators are not getting the same price points as they were last year. So that does make a difference in the price point when it gets to the consumer as well, on the retail side. So it's a challenge right now. There's a lot of really, really huge grows that are able to be in the game with the right price point, but it's that middle ground, the people that actually have the indoor grows right now, the cultivation, they're having the hardest time moving their product right now with price points.
Right. It's quite difficult, and I'm personally a little bit passionate about if the government would release some of these tax restrictions, which I mean, I've never known the government to do so. I think one of the states, I can't remember, is it Colorado? One of the states is actually, I think they're actually talking to the state to peel back the taxes on cannabis, which I just am like,
That
hopefully
would
we
be
can champion
great.
them. Because you look at, they said California, I think they said 84% of the cannabis sold in California is still in the black market. And when you think of
Yes,
legacy versus today, right? Like what we were paying 35, 40 an eighth for, that quality level 5 years ago is now, 80 to $100 out the door. That's
correct.
double, triple the price. It's hard to justify, it's not hard to understand why the black market is thriving when you look at
Correct.
that type of price gap, and it's truly built on the taxes, right? If the taxes weren't there, because that's ultimately what it is. You take the taxes away and then you have black market pricing. That's
Yep. Yeah. So hopefully, that will change soon because the black market's definitely thriving right now. So
yeah. Which is, shout out the legacy, shout out everyone that pushed the line and
yeah.
keeps doing their thing. As we move towards legalization, right? There's the inevitable looming federal legalization where, you know, regulation is going to change, but the opportunities for people are going to greaten, and we want to see, me personally, and I'm sure you want to see people transition from that legacy to this market and to be able to thrive and make a legitimate business out of
The
their
sad
craft.
thing is there has been a lot of legacy farmers who've decided to go legal, but just didn't make it.
Hmm.
They didn't make it. So that's then they just go back into the black market.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing, right? Like, if that's what you've been doing, that's what you've generationally been doing or doing for 20, 30 years, right? Like, you quite literally, I don't know anything else. This is all I know
That's
how to
it.
do. And whether it's, it wasn't legal when I started doing it, and so now that I'm back to that, like, you know, it's definitely
Right.
something that you see. Um, and so, another thing that I want to ask you, we're talking about California in California and a little bit positioned nationally, but as we move towards this federal legalization and, we understand there's going to be a demand for California cannabis, do you feel, and I mean, and I feel like we kind of covered this, but do you feel like California is still going to remain the top dog in terms of we are the
Always.
culture, we are the quality standard?
I truly, truly feel that. I think California is always that way with wine. I don't see it being any different with weed. So yeah, we're definitely, we're rock solid here in California, and we've been doing this for a long, long time.
Yeah, and that's what was I talking to? I was talking to Graham from Glass House Farms, and that's what a quote that he said that stuck out to me is he said the black market has told us there is a demand for California weed, even in states that have
Yeah,
legal cannabis. People will still pay extra to import California weed to their state, and that's, I think, a true
yeah, it's a
indicator.
thing.
Yeah.
It's still happening.
I'm from the Northwest, and I think we got some good smoke up here. I try and claim the West Coast in general, maybe not just California, but I do have to bow down when it comes to the genetics, the culture, and who's really kind of setting the tone. What's popular in California, it becomes popular in Washington and Oregon, but I mean, most of it you guys start.
Right, right. There's some really amazing people out here with the genetics, and that's something I have been following for a while now. And so I'm really, really excited to work with a really great team in Richmond, Oakland, and more on that in the future. But definitely coming up.
Yeah, I'm super excited to see what you do with Cloud 11 and your vision for Sonoma County, and whether it's your role in it or your just vision for how that area looks in general. I'm excited, man. I'm excited for
Thank
5, 10 years down the line to, take
you.
a trip out to wine country and explore that, but then also explore, the true potentials of what cannabis is going to look like here in 5 years.
Thank you so much. Yeah, this is an amazing time for Cloud 11 right now. Really excited with the partners that I have on my team. And, we're really going to be going out there in a big way. So you'll be seeing a lot of us.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you so much for hopping on this podcast episode
Thank
with us
you.
today. Appreciate the support through the years as well, but, very much for making your time today. And yeah, man, just thank you.
Thank you. 1111.
Yeah, I can't get over that. That's dope. So we're 1111 talking with
Yeah.
Cloud 11, man. This is a North American Weed Tour podcast, episode 52. That's another milestone. We're hitting all sorts of
That
weird
is so
numbers today.
awesome.
It was meant to happen. So thank you very much, Monica. Really appreciate that. Where can people find you too? Before we get out of here, we got to plug that. Where can people find you? Find Cloud 11 right now.
Yes, please. You can find me on, we just started a new Instagram. So our IG is Cloud11INC, and it's Cloud spelled out 11 INC. We're working on our website currently right now, but you can definitely find me on LinkedIn, Monica Garcia. Connect with me. Would love to connect with anybody. I'll be actually touring all throughout California. So make an appointment.
Hell yeah. Well, thank you for hopping on, and I'll probably see you here in Palm Springs here in a couple weeks, man.
I
That's
will be
coming up.
there.
Awesome. Well, thank you, man. Have a great evening.